right? And he says joyful effort is joy in doing good. And this is the thing. It really means, what does effort, joy in doing good means? It means you get off on doing good things. You get off on the Dharma. You get off on the understanding that if you do these things we call Dharma, practices, meditation, retreat, helping others, turning up to my shitty job and working with my mind with the boss, if you do these activities, you're going to free your mind from having to suffer, and you could help other people suffer. If you get that engaging with meditation, retreat, study, turning up to class is actually going to free your mind, and therefore the only thing that you could ever have to free others, getting off on that. That is joy, not obligation, it's a job, oh my goodness. And that is also a trainable thing. Your mind is moldable, he said last chapter. You can generate that experience whereby you start small and you find the things, meditation, retreat, turning up to class, going to your job, working on your mental afflictions, keeping your vows, whatever the practices are, doing your morning ritual, and you find in you that feeling I explained about falling in love, looking at a child, being at the Bushwick Black Party. You look for it. And the magic thing about your mind is when you ask it something, if you're persistent enough, it will show it to you. And I'm not talking about some magical blah blah. I'm talking about the same old boring example I've talked about forever. Don't imagine a pink elephant. Don't imagine a bike. Don't imagine a blue car. Don't imagine you happy. Don't imagine you perfect meditator. Don't imagine, it doesn't matter. As soon as you say the words, perfect meditator, happy, bike, elephant, you've got it in your mind. And if your mind then, in a millisecond after, wants to resist because you have the habit of feeling bad about yourself, you keep asking, how am I a good meditator? When was the last time I had an awesome meditation? And joyful effort is becoming a virtuaholic. Like you get off on doing virtue. In the perfection of giving, without anybody knowing, you sneak in $20 to your best friend's wallet and you shut up about it. And it's your dirty, beautiful little secret. And if someone says meditate for 15 minutes, you do 17. And you're like, I did a bit more. And you get off. And then you go, we have to do the homeworks and quizzes. And you're like, oh my God, I got to talk to other people and get to know who they are. And so wherever your mind is with this effort, you find your thing and you begin to grow it until it becomes, I can't wait to do a retreat. I can't wait to meditate for hours. I can't wait to turn up with that boss who's going to yell at me tomorrow and go, tomorrow is going to be the day I get rid of anger. And you begin to get off, and it's this feeling that's uplifting. It's not the obligation. And we do have the default for it to be a negative obligation. And so if you don't have it, if you have the obligation, you have a problem, because it is the wind that moves the flame. You can't get the collection of merit, and you can't get the collection of wisdom. You can't produce your Buddha body, you can't produce your enlightened mind without the joy about doing beautiful things. And it's not like meditation is self-existently good. It's a pain in the ass for your legs to go numb. But then you have to habituate your mind to say, hold on, why am I meditating? What am I searching for? And eventually you get centered. And it does become a joy because you made it so. It won't, because you have right view about it, not because you think it comes from meditation. Otherwise, every person that sat down in meditation posture would get enlightened. It doesn't come from the posture. Meditation is also not your conception of meditation. You all have conception of I'm a perfect meditator if. You've just wasted a whole bunch of meditation time if you were thinking that, because you've held onto a self-existent meditation moment and you're not there. So you're just generating karma around how you're not that. Meditation is watching your mind and habituating your mind to something. What are you habituating it to? So there's a relaxation that happens when you get this joyful effort to all these activities. Is that quick and rough and good? Geshe Michael gave a story of a Giku. Who's been to the Tibetan monasteries? You know who the Giku is? He's a disciplinary master. Remember the guy with the big beads? Remember when we were chanting at the top, he comes with the big beads, and any of the little monks that are falling asleep while they're reciting, he's like, and we're like, we're just watching everyone, and everyone.
He wouldn't hit them in front of us though.
Yeah, he looked at us and then he'd like.
But he would shake the beads.
Yeah.
and that was enough for them to be like.
Yeah. So Geshe Michael told us in the 90s the story when the Gikus gave them all a big lecture about joyful effort. And he says, if you're in the monastery and you get caught sneaking out to catch a movie, and they catch you, one of the punishments is for you in morning sessions where thousands of people are standing or sitting in meditation, you get to stand at the front with a movie poster that you went to. That's one of the punishments, right? The other punishment, I know, while everybody watches you, the other punishment was you get to do 100 prostrations to the 1,000 monks, and they know you screwed up. Yeah, so it's morning session and everyone's sitting there and you're sitting there doing 100 prostrations to that, and the Giku says, I don't see why that's a punishment for a Bodhisattva, because if he has joyful effort, there's nothing more you could give him that's more exciting than creating the virtue to prostrate to 1,000 holy beings who are trying to learn the Dharma. So he goes, I don't understand why that's a punishment around here. We're not doing that anymore. And that's the way we should think about joyful effort. Any activity, however you think about it, can be turned into joyful effort. And when you do that and it becomes self-perpetuating, that's the perfection of this thing. That's getting it to paramita. That's perfecting it. And it's another habit. It's another mental attitude. And I'm bad at it. I was taught to think how terrible I am. I'm terrible at this one. I was really good at it at the Bushwick Lab party. I was really amazed at how joyful I became to watch everybody for a whole extended party, 5 hours of partying, and all I could see was beauty. And it didn't matter if they were pushing to get into the line or the guy pinched the girl in the wrong way, or everything just became lovely. Like I was happy that we were doing this together. And really it's because I started making extra effort on this because I knew I had to teach it and I couldn't lie to you. And so a few months ago I started going, I better do the 6 perfections better. So I'm making efforts, and it only took a few months of making habit, and everything changes. It's beautiful, and it's self-affirming. Do you want to read the number 3? He'll tell you now, if that's joyful effort, he goes, what is it that stops joyful effort? He goes, you've got to watch out for the thing that could come and threaten it. So let's hear the contemplation.
Here I will explain the things that work against it. These are laziness, an attraction to what is bad, and the feeling of being discouraged, belittling yourself.
Okay. So he says, what is it that stops it? And he said laziness, which is lelo in Tibetan, right? Which is just a feeling of sloth, he'll explain later, of just allowing yourself to vegetate for the sake of vegetating without doing any goodness. Yeah? He differentiates that from taking a well-deserved rest when you've done a whole ton of good. That's different. He's not saying that, right? And we also have the tendency to go, oh no, I can't rest, I'm going to become a workaholic. That's not what he's saying. Take a rest when you need to take a rest, because it's a bodhisattva. activity to take care of the body and the mind that's going to take care of all these other beings. You have to do that. Laziness is just letting yourself slowly getting habituated to staying in bed for way too long because you can. Or that feeling of stuffed, I ate too much and I'm just going to stuff in another cookie. Just one more because I like the taste. You know that slowness, that half eyelids closed feeling? That's what he's talking about. That's lay low. Yeah? So letting that grow over a lifetime will actually destroy joyful effort because it actually prevents you from doing virtue. You're actually habituating the opposite of, I'm going to see what I can do for others. The second thing he says that has the capacity to reduce that is being attracted to wrong deeds, right? He says doing bad. And here he doesn't just mean the 10 non-virtues, which are killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, ill will, etc. He's talking about getting yourself into dangerous habits that cause you the harm of not seeing why virtue is your ticket out. So allowing yourself to just sit around and waste some time, like laziness, and being attracted to negative activity that is at very least neutral, but if not negative, like sitting there and watching the news for too long. You're not going to change anybody's life watching the news. You're just going to get more depressed and you're going to habituate the perspective of negativity. Does that make sense? Yeah, so that's that. And he says not to feel guilty. It's dangerous because there's not that there's something bad in the New York Times or something bad in TV channels. It's negative because you don't know how long you've got. You've got a very limited time. You have X number of days left on the planet. You and you and you and me. We don't know what that X looks like. And in that time, whatever you're habituated, your mind doesn't stop when you die.
The palm has how long you can live.
The palm. Only if you've got the karma to understand a palmist or believe a palmist or see what the palmists see.
Okay.
That could be true for a palmist, no problem. But if you don't have the karma to believe or see or do that, then it doesn't work for you.
Okay.
Is that a good answer for you?
Okay.
Cool. So, but if you do, it does.
Okay.
Okay? So because we don't know how long this time is, to grab our minds and habituate it with news or whatever it is, negativity, even if it's low level radiation, over a lifetime, it just removes you from the wanting to do virtue, which is what you need if your mind is going to experience everything with beauty and goodness and positivity and the ultimate positivity, which is Buddhahood. The third thing he says is this discouragement or low self-esteem, this habit which is strong for us here. And that's thinking, you look at a person like Ken Rinpoche or Geshe Michael or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and you think to yourself, I can never do that. Oh, there's no way I could become that kind of being. That low self-esteem, that thing says, I'm not capable of that, already limits you from the possibility of actually becoming something like that. In fact, you could be a completely marvelous other thing similar to that. The thinking that you can't do it already limits you to say, I'm just this type of person. And the reality is that you're empty of having whatever nature you think you are. Meaning, whatever you are was also habituated. You can habituate it to become anything else if you put the effort in, the work in. So thinking limitedly also removes the joyful effort. And at the very end, if you get discouraged, he says, if you get discouraged, if you fall down, it's like, oh, that was a crappy meditation, it didn't get anywhere, or I did yell at the boss, or whatever it is. You have to ask that question that he asked in the previous chapter, which is, where do I think this reality really comes from? Where do I really think it comes from? So whenever you get discouraged or you start thinking to yourself, I'm a bad Nick, or I'm a terrible practitioner, or whatever, I can't ever do that. You must think to yourself always, this is the antidote. Wisdom is the antidote to every ignorance. Where did this really come from? Where is the nature of badness in this meditation? Where is the nature of disgustingness in the yelling boss? Where is the nature of I'm a depressed individual? Where is the nature of Nick is not good enough? Where did that come from? Did a God create it and placed it in your head? Did the Big Bang produce it and it's just the way it is? Did nothing produce it? Or is it the way you're experiencing and identifying with it? And if it is, then you can change it. It is completely changeable. And so when you saw it that way, you can see it that way. But it doesn't just happen. Nothing just happens. You have to put the effort. And if you do it with joyful effort, it goes quick. Are you guys okay for staying 10 more minutes? I highly encourage it. If you don't, you're welcome to go.
The whole night.
All night, cool. So let's go to... So you get that, right? So he's saying these things will destroy your joy. Laziness, being attracted to stupid negativity, waste of time, low-level radiation, watching the news, gossiping with people, that's a waste of time. You don't know how long before you die. And you're going to die with whatever's in your mind, and that will produce your next experience. So why color it with crap? Why waste time? You don't know when. And then he says, low self-esteem or feeling discouraged. I could never do that. At the very least, think where it came from. And if you ask that self and then you train yourself on wisdom, you will know that it came from your past experience. And you can either get depressed about it or you can do something about it. Because everything, without exception, is changeable. Even your relationship to who you are. That's how it is that one day you think you're a child and then you think you're an adult, and someday you think you're an old person, and someday you think you're a suffering person, and some days you think you're a happy person, and some days you think you're a schmuck, and some days you might think you're an enlightened being. Because it's not like that all. You're not any of those things until you habituate the one that works in relation to reality, ultimate reality. That's the stable one. That's the ultimate one. That's enlightenment. There's no. Anyway. So let's read number 4, which is he's going to attack the first of those 3 things. What's laziness? What causes laziness? And he says,
What promotes the feeling of laziness is sloth, a sweet enjoyment of some pleasure, as well as a craving for time spent sleeping, all leading to a failure to feel a sense of disgust for the pain of the circle of life.
Great. So he gives you 3 causes for laziness. I'll do it really quick and we'll review it next week. The first one is just enjoying worldly pleasures because these things that just disappear, right? The silliness. Not as an antidote to you've worked really hard and you need some silly novel to get you by, but getting addicted to that, he's saying, will create laziness. Lazing around, overeating, getting sleepy, that thing. And then he says, not getting fed up with the cyclic existence. Not getting sick and tired of the reality that we are samsara. Notice I didn't say we are in samsara, but we are suffering. We are samsara. This body that you have was produced by causes that must necessarily end it. And if you don't believe that, you will suffer. If you don't understand, you will suffer because you think it's a special body that I'm going to keep forever. And you won't. And that causes suffering. If you know what it is, you'll be free from that suffering. You'll be free from that attachment. So failing to be fed up with that. Let's go to the next one. I'll get you. This one is strong and it can serve you for a lifetime.
Haven't you even got eyes to see how those in the world with you have gone steadily to the slaughter? To sit here and still enjoy your sleep is just the same as the oxen waiting for the butcher.
It's really strong. It's like, you think you're invincible. Like, you think it's not going to happen to you. You think that you're not just another one from all the beings that are on the planet now that keep popping off. You think somehow you're exempt. I think I'm exempt. I'm like, I've got time. We're just lambs to the slaughter. If we have an unexamined life and we just go by eating it away, relaxing it away, watching TV away, gossiping it away, it's gone. We're just next. If you don't recognize that identifying what caused it, what produced it, might give you the chance to turn it, to awaken from it, from shifting it, to shift it for you and for everyone else you love. If you don't realize that you're just another one entering the slaughterhouse, like all the dumb cows that are sitting down there going, I'm eating grass, and they don't know that up the hill in the slaughterhouse, the sister cow and brother cow are just entering, and they come out in trucks, and still they keep chewing and go, oh, the sun is nice. That's what he's saying by you're just like lambs to the slaughter. And if you've lived on the planet, you've had somebody die, you know people die, and we get surprised. Did you hear such and such a person died? What do you think was going to happen to them? Yeah, and do you think it's not going to happen to you? And he'll get heavier on that in this next verse. Sorry, I'm doing a rush job, and I hope it's powerful, but it is fuel to say, okay, limited time, what do I do with it? Virtue. Because if the world's coming from you, do virtue. What's he say next?
Death is coming to take you, moving at incredible speed. In the time you have left, try to amass good karma. When the moment arrives, it's true you may give up your laziness, but what good can it do at a time so wrong? You haven't got to this just yet, the others just started, and yet another has half still left to do. Suddenly then the Lord of Death makes his arrival, and in your mind you can only cry, he kills me.
And this is also a unrefutable reality. People die in between things. You read the Tengyur, which is the commentary of all these beautiful books, and you see holy monks with a book half written, and it's not finished because they died halfway through it. And the book is done, and we all have plans, and we all have 1,000 things to do. And guess what? When death comes, you'll make time for death because you've got no choice. And all those plans, half of them will be undone. All of them will be forgotten eventually, but at the time of death, you can't say, give me 1 more minute, I just got to post that on Facebook. You can't do it. You just can't do it. Yeah? And also, I think he's addressing this, people say, oh, I'll wait later to learn how to meditate. I'll learn later about this idea of figuring out if the world comes from me, I better study up and figure it out. Yeah? And how is it that my self-doubt prevents me from happiness? I'll get to that later. Or I'll get to that. You don't have time. People die midway through plans. And you all have your grand plans. And you might be able to do all of them if you had the time. But in the limited unknown time, you have which ones are going to serve you and the beings around you the most. And he's saying it's not sleep, it's not sloth, it's not watching TV. It's understanding where your world comes from and generating the causes to orbit out of the cycle of suffering. And I don't think he's being melodramatic. I think he's being authentic and real. And he's saying, what else do you think happens on this planet? People go all the time. So really he's saying, there's no later, but there is too late. Yeah? It's too late to learn to meditate when you get the disease that is going to eat you. It's too late to begin to train your mind not to get angry when someone's diagnosed you with cancer, because your mind is already disturbed with that diagnosis. And there's no way. You might have a little bit of oomph, but you haven't got the years of training. You need that habituation to get out of the cycle. The next one, the next two are strong. I'm grateful.
What is it that you imagine you do at that moment, tormented by the memory of the wrongs you've done, and with the roar of the hell realms in your ears, bringing such terror that you cover your body in shit and reach the depths of insanity?
And here they talk about these 4 things that happen in the Tibetan canon, the Buddhist canon, about the moment of death. Yeah. So they go. Let me address Powa. Powa, that the practice of transferring consciousness, that you might get taught that at the moment of death you're going to go and transfer consciousness. think it's also addressing that, saying unless you're really good and have some strong training over a lifetime with that, leaving your enlightenment or your capacity for engaging in this kind of virtue right until the end moment of death is probably very, very difficult for a very, very high practitioner. Don't gamble your time on that, because at the moment of death, your brain will start to dissolve, which means the energy in your brain doesn't have the seat of your mind, doesn't have a way to have consciousness engaged. So you have hallucinations, you're scared shitless. They say there's 4 things that happen at death. First of all is you're tormented by your bad deeds. You begin to see your life and go, what really was important? I remember when we had a student here, Erica, the first thought that I had, she got killed, run over by a car riding a bike to our place. The first thing that I thought of when she passed, when they told me she passed, was the one time I thought I was annoyed with her. I'm like, she didn't do this. That was the first thing that came into my mind. I'm like, what a waste of my mind to have spent it on that for that person. Like it was such a strong regret. Out of all the things we think about each other, out of all the activity we do with each other, what's worth doing? And what's a waste of time? So they say that these 4 experiences that happen at the point of death. The first one is you get this intense regret for moments in your life that you were a shit to other people, that you were selfish, that you were that you did non-virtue, that you hurt others. The next one they say is you actually hear, you have a sense, this fear arises from hearing the sounds of death and dying. They say you can hear the hell realms. And in Buddhism they say hell realms exist as a reality projected on you from your mind, caused, produced. And to hear the sound of living creatures ripping each other's faces apart and conceiving that as a possible next step makes you shit yourself. They say you defecate yourself, which is the third thing. And then as the seat of the mind disintegrates, your conception of what is and isn't, while your body might still be there and your mind is trying to make sense of what this thing is, because the mind continues, that you may as well be called insane, because you are trapped in this lack of understanding in this transitional space. And I don't know if you've ever had the feeling, if someone put you at the edge of a precipice, and I had my best friend Evan, we used to go over to this cliff in in Sydney, and we'd stand right at the edge of this huge precipice, these cliffs that looked at the ocean. And I remember the first time he grabbed me from behind and he went like this, "Tell your mum I saved you." Tell your mom I saved you. Like, my mind was like, like he had me, he's my friend, he loved me, but I tell you, the fear that arose in me, it was not something I could control. It's not like, I'll meditate now. You know, like, unless I had the meditative capacity already built into me at that moment, when that moment comes, something else is jumping in that is habituated. And according to this, fear is habituated because we've done that so many times. And we know that it's mostly after we burn up the good karma of being human, it's not a positive result for 99.9% of unexamined lives. So you have this precious window to do some goodness to your mind so your world can appear good. Don't waste it, he's saying. Last one.
You set your hopes on results. Unwilling to make any effort, sufferings shower down on those least able to bear them. Already in the embrace of death, you imagine yourself an immortal. Cry out when sufferings come to destroy you. You must make use of this boat, this human life you have, to cross over the great river of suffering. The boat is hard to find again later. Do not sit then, ignorant one. At this moment they are asleep.
So he's saying most of us feel like immortals. We feel like it's not going to happen. Sitting here, we're talking about death, and we're like, it's terrible, and but some part of us says, not me. At least that was my experience when I first heard this lecture. I'm like, I'm exempt because good things going to come to me, and I'm going to get all the food and all the money and all the work and my career, and I'm going to get that. Somehow I'm deserving of it because I want it. Somehow it's going to come to me because I wished it. And he's saying, if you're not putting the courses in place to create a result, why should you get that? The job, the happiness, the whatever. You only produce things on this realm of existence. If you want to produce happiness, you have to put courses for happiness. If you want freedom from suffering, you got to put the courses. If you want a good job and girlfriend, and you have to actually do the work to generate those things. You can't be a shitty person and expect somebody to have a good relationship with you. You have to generate yourself as a good. They're the causes for engaging in a good relationship. You can't wish for a good paying job and not have any skills to offer that particular job that you want. I want to be a movie star. I can't read, so I can't act. I can't read the plays. I'm going to improvise. I can only get 2 jobs improvising as an actor. So whatever it is that you want, and if you want freedom from this cycle, you need to put the extraordinary effort to get freedom from this cycle. And joyful effort, the joy that comes from recognizing you are completely in control of what happens, frees you up from being sucked up by that cycle. It gives you the power to say, I now understand enough about what I need to do and what I need to avoid to generate the courses to get out of samsara. And it's like a cold, calculated thing that becomes beautiful with you. And then he ends the thing by saying, what is the source of happiness? And he says, Dharma is the source of happiness. And he doesn't mean Buddha's Dharma. He means the essence of Dharma. The things you get from meditation, from study, from retreat, from taking care of others, from working with your mind. Those things are the things that will get you ultimate happiness, freedom from suffering. And then he goes, what are the things that look like happiness? So we shy away from those things that are real happiness, Dharma, right? Doing meditation, training your mind, being frank with your reality, really understanding where your world comes from. We shy away from that. Too hard, weird, sitting down in meditation posture, that we shy away from that. And yet we're attracted to the things that destroy happiness, which are doing bad deeds and doing whatever I want when I want, being attracted to overstimuli and jumping from object to object. He identifies in the commentary 3 things: getting addicted to, liking Facebook, going on this, getting multitasking and staying busy is an antidote. We do those things because they're immediate and but they're not actually going to produce our happiness. Producing our happiness is the other things I mentioned. And yet he says we are easily attracted to all these anti-happiness activities, and yet we shy away from the real sources of happiness, which lies in you, learning about your world, in your mind, with your reality. And so next week we'll do even a happier, joyful effort thing. Thanks for staying an extra 20 minutes. I hope you take that home and sleep on it, and when you put your head on the pillow, whatever you need to work on comes to you, and whatever energy you need comes to you, and you just decide that your life can be transformed to the most magnificent thing, regardless of what comes your way. And I hope that happens quickly. Buddha Jishin Metokram Nrirab Linjin Impadi Sangha Chindu Wargi Drogu Namda Shinla Chiparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandalakam Ninyatayani Digokun Sunam Yeshe Soksok Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejun Hui Dampa Kuni Dropar Shok. May you share this with as many people in your mind as you think need to wake up in their own lives and dedicate it to the awakening of every being, you know. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, we have a friend that is coming to Dharma Junkies, and she's just having an operation, today. Her name is Edison, and what's her
Also last time.
so maybe we can dedicate
Dedicate to her well-being. Great. Yeah, thank you. Same with Alana. She just left. She's having another operation. So, yeah, give whatever insight you got. Give it away, because that's how you generate more of it. Yeah. See you next Thursday. And if you want to start ACI 1, it's every Monday here. Rituals runs by donation. So if you would like to keep taking joy in keeping this place going, please donate generously. Anything else?
If you guys are sick of the cold and you want to move your bodies and shake it off, we're having a Nia movement class here on Saturday. And then there's going to be a music and meditation after.
Nice. Thank you.